In Fighting for Fairness news, submitted by JK is the only way.
True.
Hey.
BuzzFeed has agreed to recognize an employee union, ending a month-long standoff.
Damn, dude. So I guess all those like why I left BuzzFeed videos really started speaking to them.
Which ones?
Why?
There's like a string of why I left BuzzFeed videos.
What does why I left mean?
So, like why I left.
It's like
I left.
Yeah. So there's a lot of famous BuzzFeed people that left, and then they kept their own, or maybe they continued their own channel or whatever it was. They decided to go off on their own, and then they all made like videos of why I left BuzzFeed, and then you'll see like a ton of these folks.
What happened here?
it's usually just like a very long-winded 40-minute video that ultimately you got the point like really quickly.
That they didn't get paid enough or something?
Basically.
Yeah, they all had their different reasons. Like some people didn't feel respected. Some people felt like they were
Overworked and not no benefits.
BuzzFeed is a huge company.
Yes.
Ginormous.
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
So it was a 5-month-long battle between BuzzFeed's management and its workers.
And the blue-haired workforce.
Yes, my blue-haired brothers and
They did it.
sisters. Yep. So they finally did it. They created the News Guild, which is now a union for BuzzFeed. And so this is also really huge because in the whole tech world right now, there isn't a lot of protection for these employees like the other traditional types of industries where there will be unions here. And so it's a really big deal that they have finally come to an agreement.
You hear the same stories like in Amazon and stuff where people feel overworked or not appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. So they said, so last month there was this 4-hour protest that these workers did to get BuzzFeed to listen because they're just sick and tired of it. And so the tensions have also been really high because BuzzFeed cut 200 employees, or about 15% of its workforce, back in January after it missed revenue targets. And in March, 90% of editorial workers submitted pledge cards in support of a union. And so finally now, they have come to an agreement to have a union.
Damn.
They don't want to do that per article shit anymore, where they get paid per article they submit and all that stuff. Yeah, it's been a big thing, and I know a lot of different online places like Kotaku and like all that shit. They all kind of do that BuzzFeedian thing where they have a bunch of freelancers who they bill their articles one at a time, and so these guys got to crank like crazy amounts of articles just to get paid like a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of our friends are with them too, and they created shows behind them and all that. But it's kind of like one of those things where traditionally IP is owned, intellectual property is owned by the company that you're working for. But then with this digital age too, like people are more like, hey, I'm the face of it. I created it. This is my idea. But why do you own it? There's that gray area. There's just a lot of things I think that's changing. So I don't even know the specifics of what's going on, but I think when any time people unionize, it's because of miscommunication and people feeling like cheated.
Dude, I wish we had a fucking union when I was at Maker. That shit was crazy. The stuff that was going on there as far as like the amount of time that you work on things and then the different projects that you work on, and then that the company gets like retains all ownership of all those things, and so you're putting a lot of time in, but then you have no IP of things. It's pretty nuts. It makes you feel eventually like you're not part of it, even though you felt like you were part of it. What you were building everything.
Yeah.
So they're saying that they finally were able to, like the BuzzFeed CEO dropped his opposition once the union agreed to leave workers on a daily show on Twitter and a weekly show on Facebook out of the bargaining unit, is what they're reporting. So once they were like, all right, cool, we don't have to do that, then that's when they were like, all right.
Those workers are like, fuck, like we're out, like.
Wait, so what does that mean? I don't quite understand.
Obviously, they're making hella money from those shows, and the guy's like, hey, as long as you don't fuck with these people who we're paying nothing to,
fuck with all these other people,
we'll pay you guys okay. And then these guys are like, yeah, sure, fuck them.
Yeah, so this is mainly for about 80 U.S. news side employees. Like that's who's being in this union.
80 people.
So it's not like our friend Steven, where it's like worth it.
How many employees are
This a $10 ramen versus a $1,000 ramen, or like those kind of ones.
If they cut 200 employees, they probably had like fucking, who knows, 1,200?
Yeah, because cutting 200 was only cutting like
15%.
Right.
Damn.
So, dude, they got 80 people in this union and they're fucking putting banners up and cheering and shit? What about all the other people? Holy shit.
There's like 1,000 more employees, at least.
Well, I guess it's a
200
start.
BuzzFeed
200
News is like,
people
we
is-
got our suck dicks.
200 people is 15% of their employees.
For yeah.
Shit.
BuzzFeed. This is just the news portion. You know how they have so many different.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
they have a lot.
There's BuzzFeed food and all kinds. Damn. Wait. So this is not all of BuzzFeed
No, this
unionizing.
is BuzzFeed News.
So they turned into a union.
Yes. So that's why it's called News Guild of New York.
Do you guys like unions? Because I mean, we're kind of the same. We're like, yeah, we're JK News, right? And then we have a whole staff of like editors and all that stuff. And I don't know, like,
What? Okay, so I do know, for example, like a union at a 9 to 5. Even if you do something and the boss is like, I'm gonna fire you for that, you go straight to the union, right? So the
Yeah.
union's job is basically to protect your rights at the workplace.
well, there's already employee rights at the workplace.
Right.
Like, there's generally rules that you can't violate. Like, I forgot the acronym, but there's an employee agency that protects employees. That's
So
where you
signs you
get.
see posted in break room walls and shit?
Yeah.
Like they have all those rules and
It's
stuff?
but
It's like
but basically,
EEFD or some shit.
yeah, something like that. But I think what a union does is per industry, or let's say like the teachers union or the longshoremen, which are the guys that work in the docks, or there's the actors like in Hollywood. What is SAG? Screen
Writers
Actors
Guild,
Guild.
yep.
Yeah, so there's these.
PG, Producers Guild is all.
Right. So there's all these different unions to protect everyone that's a part of that union. So like the teachers, they could all work together on like protecting each other.
Like their pay and their benefits and all that stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's all situational, right? Like,
Yeah.
like as far as like when it's a good time to unionize and all that
Yeah.
stuff, it depends on what's going on at the company.
Yeah, because I don't know, like I have mixed feelings about unionizing because I think like they usually start with a really good reason to get together because, you know, like in the past, like, you know, companies exploited people.
Yes,
There was
like the
child
auto
labor. Yeah, there was
People losing fingers and
Yeah.
hands on the line on assembly lines and
Yeah.
shit, and they're just like, "Hey, you're fired, by the way, because now you can't work the line.
Yeah.
See you later." Like that's
Yeah.
when unions were the most necessary ever.
Right.
And I still think there's a
yeah.
lot of great cases for
Yeah.
unions, obviously.
But then when they get too big, there's strength in being a victim. So, like for example, one of the biggest and strongest unions are the longshoremen, which they work at the docks, right? But they kind of cheat the system where it's like, hey guys, stop working too hard because we want to milk this. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, so it's like if you get the job done quick,
Too quick.
They'll give you more
make them-
job,
then
Yeah.
you'll
more work.
Yeah, so the union controls their pace, everything, and then that's how they use the negotiation of you want these jobs done or whatever. And then these guys are making like 6 figures plus.
pretty.
They're
nice,
making
yeah.
a lot of money,
Isn't
which
it like
is
80 an hour or some shit?
it's good for the guys that are working there.
And then I
But-
heard, because I knew someone that like their family worked in that, and
Yeah.
you can't just apply and like, hey, I got this job. Like you have to be recommend. Like there's like a laundry list of like a waiting list where it's like so long. People want that job so bad.
And then the mafia infiltrated some unions because they can, you know, do things like this, and it's basically borderline extortion.
It
you
can
know?
be. Can
yeah,
be.
because
Well,
it's like,
there's a lot of workers too where it's almost like what we were talking about before with the Boston Tea Party. It's like taxation without representation. A lot of workers feel like they pay unions, but then the union doesn't do much for them. Depending on what the fucking union is, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have to pay, right? Like
Yeah.
Dues,
That's
yeah.
what you were just mentioning,
Yeah,
right? Like,
everyone has to pay to the union, like the Screen Actor or whatever. And if you're part of a union, you pay fees.
Yeah.
And then
know
that
a
is
lot
supposed
of-
to pay like for the lawyers, for everybody to protect the union. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are part of SAG who don't get medical benefits because they're in SAG, but if you don't book a certain amount of work a year, you're not getting the medical benefits. So a lot of people who pay their SAG dues feel like, what the fuck do I do this for? Because I don't get any benefit.
You gotta pay like $1,000 a year or something.
It's a lot, yeah. It's a couple of thousand, I think now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of those people feel like their money's not representing them well, and they could actually buy a healthcare plan if they were able to keep that money, for example. So it's definitely a two-edged sword. It's not just an easy street one-way answer.
Yeah, I like unions because it does protect employees to a certain extent. But what I don't like about it is how rigid some of it can be. So, for example, like with us, we've been trying to write a film and been trying to write a series, but the starting point for an established industry is now this much higher because there's all these union rates. So technically, like all the people that are submitting to film festivals that are just doing passion projects with all their friends and no one's getting paid, and we all just want to make a cool film, technically they're all breaking the law in the eyes of the entertainment business because no one is getting paid union rates or doing anything the union way, and they control the union. So that's the one side of it where I don't like, where I'm like, I wish there was more flexibility where there could be like something that's considered like the non-union way of doing things. And then once industries become big and established, like maybe like BuzzFeed, where maybe people shouldn't be worked to death, and the union does protect them and they give them benefits, or even
isn't it an option to join into the union? Because I remember when I was working in the hospital, they were telling me that you can decide if you want to be part of the union or not.
Yeah, some of them are like 50-50. Like my mom's old job was like that too. Like when they first was about to unionize, there's a bunch of people that wanted it. There's some people that didn't want to, but then eventually the whole company became union, and my mom was against the union because I think she felt a lot of loyalty to the company, and like a lot of like people milking the system like comes out. And then but eventually my mom's salary went from $35,000 a year to $85,000. She goes, I kind of like the union.
That's what usually happens.
That's when it's great, right?
Yeah.
That's when it's great.
That's a big jump.
Fuck yeah.
That's a big ass jump. What you mean?
For doing the same shit.
I'm like 90-10 on unions. I'm for them until there's corruption and shit.
Yeah.